Why are GRs selling out in 2025? What's up, sneaker people? It's your boy FB QCING Gear, and I am back with yet another legit check-in guide. And this time we are focusing on one of 2025's sleeper hype hits, the Jordan 12 flu games. And this is not the first time we've gotten the flu games. I want to say I think we've had them 4-ish times since the OG release, but this is arguably the most truest to form version that we have gotten. And just like with every other hot hype, slightly heated release, I'm doing an ultimate legit checking guide on them, because if there is any hype on it, that means that there is the chance to get scammed by a fake, and I don't want that to happen, you guys. So we are doing a legit check guide today on these shoes, and I was lucky enough to get them for retail. Shout out to JD Sports once again for the status access reserve. I gotta tell you guys, just as a quick tip, with everything going on with Nike right now in terms of the stock price and the CEO change and the word that we got that they're going to make shoes more limited, the best thing that you can do is find some way to get your shoes in store, whether that is an in-store raffle, whether that is some sort of loyalty status access like Finish Line and JD Sports do. It is the easiest way right now to cop these shoes, because the days where you could just wake up at 10 a.m., hit add to cart and check out are gone. Less stock is going to be online now. More stock is going to be sold at the stores. So do what you can to be able to pick up your shoes in person. That's my 2 cents. But let's stop talking about how to get the retail shoes and let's start talking about how to do legit checking. And remember that you can see more pictures of the rep on the Instagram account that's going to pop up on the screen. Knowing the details of the shoes is very important so that you know what you're looking at when you're trying to spend your money. And the last thing I want for you guys is to spend your money on a retail pair and not get a retail pair. So help yourselves and let me help you. Watch my legit check guide. Let's go. So with that said, we are going to just do a very, very quick cursory look at the boxes before we start talking about the shoes. And the easiest thing that I can point to when it comes to these boxes is the orange on this style of box is definitely a little bit brighter on the authentic pair. It's a lot more muted on the rep. And the same thing goes for the black underneath here. It's definitely a bolder, more saturated black than the rep. The reps just look like it was made out of an old box that they found. That's what it looks like. It's the best that I can, that's honestly the best that I can, information that I can give you. Even the cardboard colors are different colors on the rep versus the authentic pair. Pay attention to that. It's a darker, like I said, more lively saturated cardboard. The rep just looks like it's an old box. So very, very, very easy, low hanging fruit. Pay attention to the box, but you guys aren't here for the box. Let's focus directly on the shoes. So here we have the authentic pair here on the left and the replica pair on the right. My authentic pair is a size 11.5. The replica pair is a size 11. So keep that in mind if you see some overall size differences, or maybe you don't see any size differences, because that's a bad thing too, especially since they're not the same size, but keep that in mind. One of the things that I want to point out on this authentic shoe is that there is a semi to not so semi gloss all around the shoe, all around the leather. It shines. It's almost like a very slick black color. The leather is very soft on these uppers, super soft. And the shoe definitely feels a bit more premium than what I remember Jordan 12s feeling like in the past. So that's one thing that when you get your hands on them, you got to feel like you have a quality product. And when I have the authentic in one hand and the rep in the other, the uppers immediately stand out to me as just one, they're not as soft on the rep as compared to the authentic pair. And you can see that. You can see the impression that my thumb is making when I press the upper. So the leather is definitely not as soft, and it's definitely not as gloss black as well. The reps have a shine to them for sure, but it is not nearly as glossy as the authentic pair. Putting them side by side, you can see that gloss difference. But speaking to the leather, you can also see that there's just a texture difference too. While the tumble on the rep pair is there, it almost feels like it's relying way more on the tumbled imprint that is machined onto this leather than it is the softness and the natural kind of wear and plushness of the material. I don't really know how to describe it. It is just softer and wrinkles form where you touch. Meanwhile, the rep, it's not so much the case. The wrinkles are there, like built into the leather. And that is how tumbled leather is made. Don't get me wrong. The authentic pair definitely had the similar process done to it as well. But because the authentic pair is just so much softer and there's more padding here too, you just see the way the materials react differently to being manipulated and handled in hand. So that's probably one of the biggest differences that I can see here. And when you look to the side, it's kind of a similar deal. One of the things that I'm also noticing here is how with the stitched in lines, they're curved almost when you're looking at the side here. And the rep has some curve, but they kind of look straight when compared to the authentic pair. Look at the way the lines are stitched in. Also look at the definition that appears on the authentic pair because it's a softer, more plush leather, while the rep is honestly pretty flat. You can see the stitching almost lying flat on the surface, while on the authentic pair, it digs in to the profile of the shoe. And that's something that you can see all the way around. The next thing that I want to point at is the red parts of the shoe, because that's something that kind of stands out when you have them side by side. You've got a difference in the red color of the translucent sole. It's definitely a little bit more vibrant of a red on the authentic pair, and it's more of a cherry cough drop red on the rep, and you can see that on the side by side. But you also have a pretty stark difference in the phylon part, PU, whatever that material is, that foam part of the midsole. The authentic pair is painted to match the red of the leather coming up from the toe to the side of the shoe, while the rep is just like a lighter red that almost looks pink. And it's a pretty stark difference when you put them side by side, and that continues up to the toe. You can see. When it comes to the leathers of these side panels, I would say they're a lot more similar to each other than the black leathers are, but the rep is still a bit stiffer when compared to the authentic pair, and you can actually see the stitching differences going up the side here, attaching the red panel to the black panel. Not a huge difference, but a difference nonetheless. Looks like the name of the game for this shoe is going to be paying attention to the red leather and the red accents. Flipping around to the back of the shoe where you have the authentic pair here on the left, the rep on the right, you definitely see that difference in the translucent midsole. See how much more vibrant the red is on the authentic pair when compared to the rep. And you also have some color differences and overall just finish differences to the back strap here too. Look at how the square is perfectly neat and straight on the authentic pair, while it's a little bit curved on the replica pair. Definitely some differences there for sure. Moving on to the tongue of the shoe, where you have another feature. You have a Jumpman here at the top, and then you have 2 and 3 representing 23. When you look at the authentic pair compared to the rep, there's definitely something funky going on here. This panel on the rep is larger than this panel on the authentic pair, and the Jumpman is bigger on the authentic pair than compared to the rep. So overall, it just looks like the Jumpman takes up more space on the tongue, and that's exacerbated by the fact that this part here is smaller on the authentic pair than it is on the rep. As far as feel goes, I'll say that this is probably, on the rep, it's probably the softest material on here, and it feels very, very close and similar to the authentic pair for sure. This is probably the closest one-to-one feel on the entire shoe so far. It's definitely a lot softer. You can see your hand influences the way the tumble appears, just like on the authentic pair. There might be a little bit more padding on the rep to make up for some of the softness difference, but definitely the biggest thing to pay attention to is the Jumpman. And also, one of the things that I'm noticing is this Jumpman is completely flat on the surface of the rep, while the embroidery is almost protruding on the authentic pair, giving it a 3D effect. Outside of that, I'd say the embroidery is more or less the same. I think it looks like the rep pair has a slightly darker red thread for the embroidery than the authentic pair. Let's see if I can get them to show. If you're looking at those T's, definitely the authentic pair is a little bit brighter of a red. And while we're at it, we might as well look at the outsole, because the biggest difference that I could see on the outsole is that outside of the color of the translucent rubber that we talked about earlier, you've got some slight differences in this little red 23 here on the bottom as well, and the imprint just looks different. I don't know how else to describe it. It just looks different. The color's different, and the imprint just looks maybe a little bit deeper on the authentic pair for that 23 on the bottom or on the top of the toe compared to the replica pair. But I'd say like the biggest difference here is when you look at the carbon fiber shank plate. Reps have been using carbon fiber shank plates on the 11, 12s, and 13s for a while now. And if it's not real carbon fiber anymore, it is whatever the authentic pairs are using. The difference I'm seeing here is that there just seems to be something that was like coated onto the carbon fiber plate where you see a lot of those streaks, and you can actually feel them on the surface of the carbon fiber. When you compare it to the rep, it's just not nearly as prominent and protruding. The carbon fiber is there, but this almost looks like brush strokes. This almost looks like brush strokes. They put some kind of seal on the carbon fiber, and they just didn't apply it the same way on the rep. So it's a lot smoother and you don't see those streaks. So that is actually a pretty good legit checking indicator. So that pretty much wraps up the shoe. Let's see if there's anything that pops up on the blacklight test very quickly, and we'll wrap up the video. So I've never done a blacklight test on Jordan 12, so I have no idea what I'm about to find. So let's shine it on the authentic pair and see what we get. We're getting not a lot of reaction, nothing too crazy here, nothing that's standing out. Oh, we're getting some reaction out of that carbon fiber shank plate that we talked about. You can actually even see those strokes that I mentioned earlier. You can see the texture to them. Maybe a little bit of glow out of that 23, but nothing too crazy. Nothing really on the shoe at all. Yeah, nothing really is lighting up. So on the rep, I should not be seeing anything that lights up either. And so far, so good. Oh, we're definitely getting a weird glow on that Phylon foam midsole on the rep pair. Let's see if I can repeat it on the authentic pair. Definitely not glowing the same way. Putting them side by side, the light just hits these midsole foams completely differently. It deads the light on the authentic pair, but on the rep, it definitely reflects the light. So that's definitely a difference that I was not expecting to see. Now we have to see what happens to the outsole. We have no reaction out of the outsole whatsoever. And just to repeat, looking at the authentic pair, you got a lot of reaction out of the outsole, and that is most likely that seal that they put on it that shows all the brush strokes. No reaction whatsoever on the reps. So between the carbon fiber shank plate and the foam midsole, you'll be able to use your black light to do a legit check. Let's turn on the light and wrap up the video. So folks, that wraps up our video of the Jordan 12 flu games. There are a lot of differences that I've been able to see from the authentic pair to the rep. A lot of them aren't really visual in terms of if I see these on foot, I'll know for sure whether they're real or fake. But once you start examining the shoe, you start seeing the differences in color, the differences in material, and how they feel and how they respond to being touched. You see the finish differences on the sole, and the blacklight test that kind of highlights some of those differences even more. You definitely start to build a bigger picture for your legit checking. And once again, if anybody ever doubted whether or not reps were made in a different factory than retail pairs, proof is right here. But outside of that, definitely keep your eye out. Shape is more or less there, I'd say, but for the authentic pair, there's just more grooves and contours and everything. And while the rep is definitely a lot more cookie cutter and boxy, if that makes sense. So keep an eye out for that. And that's pretty much it. Let me know if you guys want me to do another batch of these. I'm not a huge fan of the 12s, but since I've been collecting shoes for so long, I had to get the flu games to add to the collection, and thankfully I was able to do it pretty easily. So with that said, remember you can find more details on the shoe, more details that I could even go over on the Instagram account that's going to pop up on the screen. Knowing what the reps look like will infinitely make your job easier at legit checking, so that when you're spending your hard-earned money, you are getting what you paid for. So with that said, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.